Hello viewers, my name is Leopold Munende. Welcome to the agenda. With me today is a man of very interesting opinions considering his political history, someone who's very candid, and someone who gave us this very interesting book, Quiet Flows the Zambezi, Colonel Tshinga Dube. Welcome to the program, Colonel.
Thank you, Comrade Mendy.
We start on a very bad note.
Yes.
Your comrade Absalom Skosana just passed on. Our condolences.
Yeah, it's a very sad thing. He was a very hard worker and a really gentleman.
And then how was it working with him throughout all those years?
No, he was very, very good man. He had a quarrel with anybody. He always listened very attentively and exchanged opinions. I don't remember him ever quarreling with anybody. He was very dedicated, he was Secretary for Youth for a long time. And now he was chairman of Bulawayo province. And we worked very well indeed.
So I'm sure you are also going to Bulawayo?
Yes, I'm going there. Yeah.
As shown in city, Munono to Batera Bus.
Okay, yeah, and this also.
And then we go straight into the discussion for today.
Yeah, right.
So we are going to be looking at the differences between Zebra and Zanla from your own perspective. You have given us a book which is very interesting, but the points which he raises here have raised questions about your loyalty, questions about your opinions themselves, where you stand as a politician, whether you are with the new dispensation or you are not. So maybe before we go into the questions which I have today, you can maybe shed more light on all that. Are you with the new dispensation or are you not with the new dispensation in the book's context?
Well, I am. In fact, I'm one of the architects of the new dispensation. So it's not a question of whether I am with it or not. I'm the architect. Yes.
That is very interesting. So now, the Zipra and Zanla, which differences would you highlight between the Zipra and Zanla from the training, orientation, ideology, right up to 1979?
No, I don't think there are any differences between former Zipra and former Zanla. They were all fighters. And you realize that fighters are comrades. They look upon each other as comrades because they sacrifice their lives together and they fight together. And it is only the problem of politicians when they want to fulfill their own agendas, that creates some divisions between fighters. But fighters themselves are always straightforward. You remember even the Napoleons once said, you never find any wrong soldier, but you may find some wrong officers. Officers in the sense that the senior officers normally are closer to politicians, and the politicians are always want to use the fighters for their own ends, not for the revolutionary end. But that's when the problems come in.
So, who were the politicians in 1980? Because I think my generation now has a challenge looking at the difference, identifying the differences between a fighter and a liberation in the context of the second Chimurenga.
Well, there were a number, most of the people that you know of. I must say that the commander of Zanla was Josiah Tongokara, who unfortunately died before he got here. And the commander of Zipra was Masuku, Lookout Masuku. He also died in hospital. And there were many others who were their supporters, and just all structures that you find in the military, concept.
And then the transition from being within the military to taking political office, public office in 1980.
Yes, that was a very trying time, because you see, first of all, it would have been much easier if we had stuck as Patriotic Front, which had been agreed much earlier, that is at Lancaster House and before. The people who really were behind the Patriotic Front, who wanted to make sure that people are united, was like Josiah Tongokara, and many of those who died before him, like Jason Moyo, like Herbert Chitepo. If those people had been there after Lancaster House, I think things would have worked out the other way.
Even in New Zimbabwe?
Even in New Zimbabwe, yes. What was New Zimbabwe? There's no difference. The only problem was the power struggles that was there. I'm talking of those people because they were actually revolutionaries. They were not so much on power and looking for power. So without any power struggles, this country would have been fantastic. It would have been wonderful.
You're taking us back to your time, I'm sure. So how did the Patriotic Front fail? What exactly happened? Here I'm now looking at I'm now seeking the inner details, so that when I start telling people on the streets, I'll have the rich content to share with them.
Well, the Patriotic Front, in fact, was a brainchild of the frontline states. They encouraged us to come to work together as Patriotic Front. That is ZANU and ZAPU. You know, the split had taken place in 1963. And ever since, there were few problems between these two organizations. Again, as I say, it was all because of power struggle. So this Patriotic Front went on, and they were very confident that we're coming home as one unit, that is Patriotic Front. Up until we got here and we realized that no, it was not going to be. Our comrades from ZANU decided that they were going to hold elections on their own. And while we were still holding to the promise that we're coming as one vector, this is why I say if people like Tongokara were there, I don't think they would have allowed that.
So how did you, what was your response? What was your reaction the first time you received communication that ZANU-PF was going it alone?
No, well, what could we do? It was their will. We just had to accept it. We couldn't argue the right to decide on how they want to go along. So we were, of course, very unhappy because we knew division among people creates more problems than good. You see, you find that when there are divisions, people will want to create imaginary enemies. You see, like the Chinese will say, if you want to unite people, you must create an imaginary enemy. Or you must create a common enemy. If there's no common enemy, you must create an imaginary one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you strengthen your side, you see. So it meant that each side had to try to look upon the other as not a revolutionary friend, but as an enemy. That's why with most of those problems came up.
It was very unfortunate. Then the contribution of Father Zimbabwe, Joshua Nkomo, from 1980. Do you think by the time he passed on, he had served Zimbabwe as much as he would have wanted to serve it during the liberation struggle?
No, certainly not. You see, Father Zimbabwe, as you know, was the founder of our nationalism or our revolution in Zimbabwe. No one can argue that. Even he was a very open-minded man, by the way. When Mugabe was still a lecturer in Ghana, he called him. He asked him to come back home and join the liberation struggle. As I say, he was a very open-minded man. He looked at anybody whom he thought was a capable man, and so forth. So he called him in, maybe because, you know, Mugabe was very eloquent in English and very impressive indeed. Maybe he saw that. But he went on, and but later on, when there was this division which broke between the two parties, Mugabe went with the others, with the other group for ZANU, and Nkomo remained with others. So, as I say, when we came in 1980, he had got a lot of very brilliant plans of how to run this country. But he was never given any chance to do so. Because, as I've said, in our country, the biggest problem has always been power struggle. You see, the concentration was on who was who, the power struggle. Instead of looking at each other as brothers and fellow revolutionaries, they looked at each other like enemies. People wanted to grab power from each other or something of the sort. So it was never very good at all. It was not easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are exercising social distancing in our studio. We are in the period of the coronavirus, of COVID-19. We are exercising social distance. Please stay safe. Wash your hands as often as possible. Use your hand sanitizers. Wear your masks, especially when you're in a public or in a public place. I am with Colonel Tshinga Dube, Quiet Flows, the Zambezi. He is the author. It is a very interesting book, and I'm sure if you get hold of this, you will find that he's a very open-minded and candid writer, someone who's not afraid of stepping on anyone's toes. He says that I've reached a self-actualization level where you don't really care, you don't really mind, but you just want to lay your thoughts for generations to read. We are talking of the period between it's around 1975, is it?
When?
The Zipper.
Yes, 75.
75, yes. So I am asking him whether he thinks if Zipper and the Patriotic Front had succeeded in ushering us into a new Zimbabwe, we would have had a different country altogether, maybe a more developed country, and also the contributions of Father Zimbabwe, Joshua Nkomo. And Joshua Nkomo passed on in 1999. Considering his contribution to the struggle within ZIPRA and a significant absence between 1983 and 1987. What was the general feeling towards him?
Well, he went through a lot of turmoil. You remember, there were some people who really wanted him dead. Like in all countries where you get some people inciting for violence, genocide, or something of this sort, they come up with very inciting speeches on radios, on rallies, on something of this sort. So, as I said, he would have probably died if he had not escaped the country to UK to take refuge there. But you see, it's exactly what I'd been saying about the power struggle. There was nothing absolutely wrong with him or with anybody. It was just that the power struggle. Mugabe felt threatened that Joshua Nkomo's stature was a worry to him. Yeah, it was a worry to him, so he didn't want him nearby. So he had to create a lot of false accusations against him. And this led to the very difficult times and that. But there were also people like Innocent Kala, who had made himself the enemy of Joshua Nkomo for whatever reason, but it was not political. It was not political, but then he incited a lot of hatred against Nkomo, so it was very difficult. Like, as I said, you say that if all the uniting forces like ZIPA, Patriotic Front had succeeded, we would never had all these problems which came later on, like Kukuraundi and all these type of things. They wouldn't be there because people in Zimbabwe have always lived like a family.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, you know, you find then they turned around against each other. People had lived maybe next door to each other for a long time, for decades, maybe 50 years. Now they found themselves chopping each other's heads, which was very bad, because this was all incitement. I always have said that, look, I know very well that the Zipra and Zanla were never enemies. I say this from experience. I even wrote it in my book that we had some assembly points when we came in 1980, which housed both Zipra and Zanla, and they were armed. There was no problem at all. They would go out for drinks together and get some girls or something, and there was no problem, not once. But as soon as they came to the cities, then this whole problem came, because there was an element of politicians then.
Okay. So this whole narrative that Zipra and Zanla soldiers never saw eye to eye is not true.
It's not true. Even the very early squabbles like Mgagao, they were not political. It was just that there's a shortage of food. Okay. So it was a problem of food and so forth.
And then
yeah.
2020 we say it's political.
No, it was not political. Yeah. So, well, there were some skirmishes even in the bush during the war. All these, again, were incited by politicians. Yes, They were incited by politicians, not by the fighters. How do you want to fight a man who is fighting the same enemy with you? No. You are fighting, we're all fighting for Boers, against Boers. And then we turn our guns and fight each other. How do we conquer Boers? So it was not true. But when you have been given orders that if you see these people across the river, kill them, then you take orders as usual. Like any soldier will take orders.
Unfortunate. And then moving over to, I'll start with the similarities. Usually people start with the differences. What were the similarities between the late President Robert Mugabe and Father Zimbabwe?
You see, the differences were such that I believe former President Mugabe was so much into power. He really wanted power so much. He didn't want any challenge on power. You know, it comes with somebody when you are brought up that way or something of this sort. Yeah. So he was not tolerant at all. He didn't have tolerance. You can even see that all the people who were with him ended up kicked out from the party. Even Kala himself, Kala, Yakumbo, Kalistas Ndlovu, Tekere, name them. All of those people were kicked out of the party. Up to the current president. So he didn't want any opposition of any kind. That was the problem. But Nkomo and the other place was more of a dove. He didn't even take pride in the fact that we fought so much and killed so many. He would have, if it was according to him, solved these things peacefully. This is why he tried very hard to talk to the Smith regime, and many people interpreted that as just as being a sign of weakness. But it wasn't weakness, you see. Look at what followed. How many people were killed in the camps because of the failure of those talks? Thousands of the refugees in Mozambique and in Zambia. That's what he was trying to avoid. You see, if we got into that point whereby many lives would be lost. Why should they be lost? They would be living here. There were no problems. All they were doing was to fight for their rights. So that was the point of view of Comrade Nkomo. And all what he did, look at the land issue. His point of view on the land distribution was not just to grab the land and give it to people. He said, no, let's have a proper land distribution plan. And this will avoid a lot more problems, which obviously happened. You see, because the land distribution itself was a noble idea. We had to have land because that's what we fought for. But if you remember, then soon after that, we started importing food. And those people we kicked out from land went to Zambia and were buying food from them. You see, were buying food from them. So why instead money is very difficult, especially foreign currency. If some of those people were very good farmers, had stayed, and there was enough land to divide to some farmers. But not everyone is a farmer, you see.
But isn't we are now investing in command agriculture?
Well, yes. But I would ask you, how successful has it been? If command agriculture has been very successful, we will be exporting food like we used to do. But we are still barely growing enough to satisfy our own country. So the truth is, if we have to buy maize from outside, you may find that those Rhodesians we kicked out are the ones growing that maize out there.
And then before I forget, you were saying that Mugabe was not accommodative. He would not receive opposing voices or opposition easily.
No.
But now, with the Cholosho Declaration, there was one set of Cholosho Declaration. My question is coming from that point. Is it not that people sometimes would hesitate to challenge him? Maybe in fear of retribution, but they would hesitate to challenge him.
Yes, but you see, you think of your own security before you challenge, because if you challenged him, you were sure that you'd be booted out. You remember, if you are talking of Cholocho, all those people who tried to challenge there were booted out either as ministers or chairmen of the provinces and so forth. They lost a lot of favor, That was the way he ruled.
And then moving over to the economic problems, you survived ESAP. ESAP, I think ESAP was around the time we were saying goodbye to our mothers. Now, to our mothers, we no longer support at that time. Around that time,
yes.
You survived through that period. You know what it meant. You know what government was attempting to do.
Yes.
And it has been said to be the cause of some of our economic problems, some of which we are facing today. Would you share the same views?
No, I think our problems as a whole came from the way we handled our political problems. Economic problems and political problems are like the 2 feet of a man. If one is not functioning properly, the other will never function properly. You know that. So we lost that arrangement when we came in as political parties. Disunity. This disunity caused by this power struggle. And then, obviously, it would affect our economic problems. You will remember that during that time, our main target was fighting against each other. We're fighting against each other, what have you. There was no unity. People could not come together and plan together. You see, everything that we planned, we were just told it's gone. That's what it is. Look at even the question of war veterans. We were given this money, big monies, without planning. You see, if you give a man a lot of money without planning, he surely part with that money. Then that's what caused, that was September 11. September 11.
Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday. So there was nothing wrong with us being given money to start off life. It was absolutely correct. But the problem was it was given without any planning. Inasmuch as the land which we were given, it was also very good because we had fought for the land. But when you give a man land without any implements, without any money to develop it, you are just ruining that land because he will never use it, you see. It's like giving someone a gun without a bullet. Yeah.
Just to show that I have a gun.
Yeah, just to show that I have a gun, to boast about it. And it's useless, you know. It doesn't work out.
And then there have been calls by war veterans, much recently now, that they would like more land, they would like their children to be taken to school, and they would like more money.
Well, you see, the problem is there are certain things which we come up with which are not very reasonable. When we were fought, we were not fighting like mercenaries. We were fighting for our people to be happy, the whole country to be happy. Now, if we want everything for ourselves, then it will be a mercenary mentality. That since I fought, I want everything. You don't ever, you know, children. There are many people with children who never went to war. Those children too need to go to school. The hospitals need medication, need doctors to be paid, whatever you. If we grab everything as war veterans, we will also suffer because, you see, a government is like a chain. People are deployed in different areas and do different assignments. So if we take all that money and then the rest have nothing, what happens then?
We don't know, maybe they have other ways of making sure that our generation also gets something.
No, you're right. You're right, because you have to get something. It was not your fault that you were not born when the people went to war. It was not your fault.
It's always interesting talking to Colonel Tshinga Dube. Colonel Tshinga Dube, like I said earlier on, has been in Zambia for quite a long time, and some of the views which he shares, I don't know how you handle this, as in your views and then interacting with, for example, the war veterans, telling them that no, gentlemen, we cannot get everything. Do they understand where you are coming from, or they are very skeptical about you being around them?
No, I mean, as a war veteran myself, I would want the best for war veterans. But it must be reasonable. You see, we have to share the cake. Everybody in the country have to share the cake. If a certain section of the society lives very well and the rest don't, so that's not good. So what I think is, yes, we as war veterans deserve some special benefits, like all other war veterans in the world. That's what they do. But you must be reasonable in doing so. Cut your suit according to your material. You cannot just say, I want the whole land, I want money for free for my children, I want this and that, and all this. It's not good enough, yeah. So we have to make sure that we live and let live. Everybody has a right to enjoy life in Zimbabwe. That's what we fought for, so that all people enjoy life, not we who are in the bush enjoy life alone, you see.
I get your point, though, that war veterans have to be recognized, like any other country.
Yes, certainly, yes.
But at the same time, you are telling other war veterans that they should understand that they fought for the rest of the country, not
the rest of the people, yes, not for themselves.
And then we come to the current period. We have, of course, you have highlighted that the economy and politics are like two legs on a man. The other one doesn't function, the other one doesn't function.
Yes.
I understand that. Now, looking at the current economic challenges we have, how would you rate the new dispensation from your expectations before it got into power, right up to 2020?
Yes, we have gone through a lot of problems as well. I think what we should realize is that we are living in a global world now, in a global world, so we have to realize that in the first place. There are certain things that we should completely abstain from doing because they tarnish our name. And that also goes to our economy as well. You see, for instance, we look at organizations like in monetary, or what is this, monetary or some, monetary fund, is it?
Monetary fund, yeah.
Yeah, well,
International
Monetary Fund, and other organizations that give us money. They have their parameters of giving us money. If they're not happy with what we do, then it becomes more difficult. We're now under sanctions. Sanctions can go very fast if we comply with that demands that we carry out some reforms. But if we don't carry out reforms, then they also lock up themselves. They don't want to deal with us because they feel that we are arrogant or not. So there are a lot of things, you see, that we should do to make sure that we're in uniform with the whole world. If we get some news like this, like what happened maybe a day or two, some people are kidnapped and beaten. You see, the whole world knows that now. You see, you go to America, you go to England, you go to everywhere because of the means of communications that we have. Everybody gets to know Zimbabwe has done this. This doesn't augur very well with our public relations. When then people meet and discuss Zimbabwe, they only look at the dark side of issues. They don't look at the good things that we do. So we have to completely change. There are a lot of things we must do to make sure that we have changed. We're not what the world perceives us to be.
Keno, you speak to the president, you speak to his vice presidents. Just the way I speak to my own friends.
Yes.
Have you shared these views with them? And what have been their reaction?
Well, as far as I know, they know these views. They know this very well, much better than I do. So all that happens is just implementing them. They just have to implement them. You see, sometimes we have gone out of our hand, we have gone out of our ideas and find ourselves maybe provoked. When the way you treat, you behave when you are provoked, it's very important to tell your character. Look, you say that people may be demonstrating or something. The way you handle those people tells of your character, you know. Then that's what I mean. They know it. It's not that they don't know it.
At least now we are sure that the president gets this kind of advice, because I'm sure the negative publicity is not only harming opportunities for Zimbabwe, It's also it goes personal now to a level where a child can be harassed, beaten up, kidnapped, or abducted, as you put it. Did Mugabe get this kind of advice?
Well, he didn't care. All that he cared for was his power, that his power was protected. If you kidnapped people because they were protecting him, he didn't mind. It was all right. This is the problem.
It's very interesting. Quiet Flaws, the Zambezi. Some of the discussions we are having can be found in this book. I've read it, and I would urge anyone else who's very much interested in the history of Zimbabwe politics. He talks of the Gukurahundi, which is a very important subject, very painful but very important aspect of our history as a country. He speaks of other revolutionaries, their contribution to the struggle, his own contribution to the struggle, and the new dispensation. When the book was released, it raised quite a number of eyebrows. People were saying, is this man really in ZANU-PF? But he really is in ZANU-PF. At one point, isn't you sitting in the Politburo?
Yes, the junior member.
How is the feeling of being in the Politburo? They say it's the most powerful institution. It's only second maybe to cabinet, if not first itself.
Yeah, well, you see, I'm in the junior stage now, but I sat in the Politburo for a long time. But now I don't sit in the main Politburo. The junior level.
But still it's the Politburo. But how was the feeling when you sat there with Robert Mugabe and now sitting with President Emerson Mnangagwa?
There's quite a bit of difference, you see, because first of all, there's an element of opening now. You can say that. I think during Mugabe time, I wouldn't have even written this book. I would find myself in a lot of trouble. But now, that bit of tolerance is very important. We'll start from there and grow forward. Tolerance. You see, tolerance is the most important thing when you are a leader. You see, you don't always punish anybody who holds different views than you. You see, I can tell you a story of King Mzilikazi when he settled near Bulawayo there. There were a lot of mountains, as you know. He told these people that, look, he got some people to be reconnaissance, to sit in the mountains, so that the Boers used to come to do some hunting and mining, and they were causing a lot of problem for him. So he sent one man to be looking in the mountains, so that when they come, they are alerted, then they could stop them. But then these Boers came very close, and when everybody came and said, but this man didn't do his job, what happened? And he was called, and he told him, the king, he says, what happened? He says, no, I wouldn't have told you that the Boers were coming. He said, why? He said, because I hate you. And there was pandemonium, telling the king that you hate him. The spears were already ready to slaughter this man. But then the guy said, no, put your spears down. Why? You are all jittery. Do you think you all love me? Then he said, okay, take this man, give him some land up there, and some cattle, and some cows, because he's a very honest man. So instead, this man went out, and instead he got a prize for being honest.
And courageous.
And courageous.
Yeah,
but you see, this is not what happens to most people. You know,
so, what do you think you would add? After publishing this book, what would you say, I should have added this in that book? Or have you sat down to think?
No, you know, this book is very small. It's only less than 300 pages. You know, there is a lot that I could have added, you see. My main, one thing I really think I wouldn't have covered is that we have got, we once said to be the jewel of Africa. And then what went wrong? That's a very important point for me, to analyze the problems that caused this degradation of our country, because it was all known to be the jewel of Africa. So why then are we not the jewel of Africa now? That's the most important thing I think I left out.
Don't worry. We know you are a good writer. You are a very candid writer. Someone with very interesting opinions. We will be waiting for another one. So is this book now available across the country?
Yes, we are just launching it to the Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will also be on Amazon?
It will be Amazon, yeah.
Okay.
But we have a lot of books. Just I brought from Bulawayo a lot of books. I'll put them into this art gallery and other shops.
Make sure to put them at airports too.
Yes, these are the ones who put it at the airport, the art gallery.
Okay.
They've got a stand there.
It's interesting. I'm sure someone flying wherever he or she will be going will find this very interesting.
Yeah, when you are reading, when you are flying and so forth. Let's hope Honorable Vetarans is going to finish and people will fly again.
I was with Colonel Tshinga Dube. We were discussing his book, of course. We were discussing other things that include the Zipper, that include the Patriotic Front, and the prospects Zimbabwe had, the possibilities, what we could have had if the Patriotic Front had been a success. The contributions of the late Father Zimbabwe, Joshua Nkomo, and also the environment within which they survived. And the late President Robert Mugabe, the new dispensation too, he spoke of the image which we are supposed to build, supposed to share with the international community if they are to cooperate, if we are to re-engage. Colonel, thank you so much for having us on the agenda.
Yes, thank you.